So here's a small update for the Junkyard CRD engine, which is over there, and is about to go in here. So this is my 2005 Jeep I bought this past summer that had a failed rocker, more than a couple of failed rockers actually. And I replaced the rockers, did ARP head studs on it, and it's been driven around. It's been driven back and forth between Colorado and California twice. It's got about 5,000 miles on it since August. And something happened. I wasn't driving it at the time. And it died. Wouldn't restart. And it made a thunk-thunk when you turned it over. So I'm going, okay, something internally is bad. A thunk-thunk's pretty bad. A pop-pop out the intake means bad rockers. A thump-thump means a bent valve or a drop valve or something. So no matter what, things have to come apart. So I said, all right, let's pull this out. Let's just pull out the engine, check it out, and probably put in the Junkyard engine. The Junkyard engine that I had no plans for, I now have plans for. So, as part of pulling apart this engine, or getting ready to pull this out, I went to drain the radiator and save all my 5-month-old antifreeze, and nothing came out. And the reservoir was totally empty. There was nothing in there. So I'm going, okay, what happened to it? Turns out it was down in the oil pan. So that's interesting. It went naka, and somehow all the coolant wound up down in the oil pan. It was not made into a milkshake, so it didn't run for a long time like that, but who knows what happened. So here's the engine. This is how I pull it. Basically, you'll see what I'm going to do is keep the engine and transmission and transfer case all together. And, it's kind of hard to get those things apart down below. And, it's just easier when everything's out to bolt an engine and transmission together. So the way I do this is I've got the wiring harness all pulled back. Normally that runs along the firewall back over there. See, it plugs into the transmission computer back here. And the same thing, I've got this bit of the wiring harness, which normally runs behind the fuel filter head and back over and plugs into the ECU. I've got this all apart. So there's everything together. The harness runs down and around. It goes back to the transmission. We've got the battery cables, everything. See, this is all disconnected. Minus that, but this is all disconnected and that'll stay on it. So the nice thing about this is these kind of hard things of getting the wiring harnesses exactly in place and routed around by the transmission and everything, I get to do out on the floor and then shove everything in all together, and all these connections and everything. I don't have to undo them and get all this stuff out of the way. There's a little bit of work because I got to undo the drive shafts and the cross member, but the kind of grunt work of trying to undo the transmission from underneath, I don't have to worry about. And like I said, there's some wiring harnesses that run around the transmission. I can get those back in place a little bit more easily. Pull off the hood, get myself plenty of height, and almost more importantly, I get plenty of light because I don't have a hood in the way blocking all the lights. It's pretty easy to see everything. I've removed the whole front radiator stack. Most notably is the air conditioning compressor. I've had to evacuate the system and remove it, so I'll have to recharge the AC. But as you can see, with that out of the way, again, a whole lot of clearance. And basically, if you're pulling an engine out, either an engine and transmission together, or just an engine out, you're going to want to pull that AC condenser. I have to put in a little bypass here to keep from leaking ATF all over the place when I do this. And otherwise, I'm about ready to go. I'll use the front sling here, and I'll get a strap wrapped around from the back to help counterbalance it, and we'll lift up, make sure we're clear of all of our injector return lines, everything, nothing gets crunched. And I'll basically pick this up and pull it right out the front. We'll have to get it to clear the front bumper support there, which isn't too bad. It's got to go up a little bit higher than it is, and we'll just have to, make sure the transfer case doesn't hang up on anything. Basically, we can leave the motor mounts in place and, not have to pull both of them out. We can leave them either bolted into the body or bolted to the engine, whichever one you prefer. I leave them on the body. And again, it's a A little different than just pulling an engine, but I like pulling these two together. I'll get it up, and at some point I'll actually have to get out here and roll the Jeep back, just so I've got enough clearance, because even though the Jeep's all the way at the back of the garage right now, I don't have just a ton of space up there to pull this all forward, so I kind of have to get it up and roll the Jeep back. So I know some of you are probably questioning my sanity in doing it this way, but maybe it's just personal preference. I don't like being down on my back trying to get to transmission bolts that are, well, really hard to see and get to. So anyways, that's the story. The Junkyard engine has a home, or will have a home soon. So I'll get this out and roll the Jeep back, and then I got to transfer some stuff over to the Junkyard engine and put it back in. So I'll give you an update when I get to that point.